So I'm going to give you a quick demo of the Drive product and tell you a little bit about it. So Native's really expensive, and you may have noticed you spend a lot of time, when you're optimizing a campaign, you spend a lot of time doing the same repetitive tasks over and over again. And if a computer were to do those tasks for you, it would save you time, it would be more accurate, and it would also save you money because, for example, a computer can run 24 hours a day. It can keep doing your optimization. So Drive runs 24 hours a day. It runs every 2 minutes. It scans all your campaign data and it does whatever you tell it to. So, for example, if you ever had the experience of waking up the next morning or looking at your campaign after a couple of days and you see that one bad widget sucked up a bunch of spend, and it could have been blocked if you had just seen it sooner. Well, if you had told Drive to block that widget, then you would have saved money right there. So that's one example. We also have this great reporting feature where you can see spend and revenue all in one place, and you can also see the accurate spend on an individual widget basis. So I'll show you that later. For now, I'm going to walk you through the steps of creating a campaign on Drive and also looking at some of the reports. So this is a demo account. You can see here each campaign, and this is kind of the summary view of the campaigns. And you can also see when, if you hover over this, you can see when the campaign was last run. And there are also links here for all the reports for each campaign. So, for example, if you wanted to see just the widgets from this campaign, you could click on this. The log is all of the specific actions that Drive has taken for this campaign. For example, which widgets did it block at which time. You could see those in the log. Okay, so let's create a campaign. So this is if we click the new campaign button. So you connect one volume campaign, you select the volume campaign. This is a demo account, so these are all fake names here. But you sync up one volume campaign, you sync up one Rev Content campaign. Now we have report-only campaigns, and what that means is if you just want to see the reports, the accurate per widget spend and the spend and revenue in one place. If you just want to see the reports, you click on this. But if you want to see the reports, so the Drive Optimize campaign means you also see the reports, but you'll also get these optimizations. So the optimizations, I'll skip the options for now. Basic rules. Okay, so auto blocker. This is the widget auto blocker. This is what Drive is famous for. This is the instant money saver. The idea with a widget auto blocker is you tell Drive what qualifies for a widget to be blocked, and once a widget reaches these thresholds, then Drive will instantly block it. So I'll tell you a little bit about the thresholds here. So you can say, for example, if you want to block, a lot of people, they want to block widgets that are bot placements, and so they guess what a bot placement is. It's a pretty good guess. They guess what a bot placement is based on if it has a really low CTR or if it has a really high CTR. So you can say, okay, once it reaches a certain number of visits, just so I'm confident enough, a certain number of visits, and also if the CTR is less than 2%. Okay, so that's a CTR. That's probably a bot placement, right? Now, we also let you add in a third qualifier, which is, sometimes bot placements are profitable. So if its CTR is less than 2% and if the profit is less than 0. Okay, so if it's unprofitable, and we can do an unlimited number of block rules here. So I'm going to add another block rule here that says 100 visits and CTR is greater than 30% and profit is less than $0. Okay. You can also add as many rules as you want. So you can say, okay, well, if I'm sure this is going to depend on your payout, but let's say you spend $50 and the ROI is less than negative 10%. So the nice thing about this is ROI is a nice calculation because no matter how big the spend is, it'll still be it's a percentage, so it's all relative. Okay, so where does all this data come from? The spend, this is the actual, you may or may not know this, but when you're looking at Volume or Thrive or whatever tracker you use, and you're looking at the reports of widgets, the spend that you're seeing in that report is not accurate. It's actually just an estimate. You take the overall CPC bid for the campaign and you multiply it by the number of visits, but that's really inaccurate. It's inaccurate because for a couple of reasons. One, the number of visits that you're looking at in that report is wrong, because that's only the visits that come to Volume. It's not the visits that you actually pay for. So most of the time those are pretty close, but it's still a source of error, especially on bot placements. It's a big source of error. The other reason that that's wrong is the CPC on individual widgets is not, it doesn't apply to every widget, because every widget actually has its own going rate, its own kind of unique CPC on a widget, and also it varies throughout the day. So basically the only way to know the actual amount that you spend on a widget is to go through the Rev Content API, which Drive does. And Drive does pull the widget spends from the API, and that's the number that it'll use here for your blocks. That's also the number when we look at the widget report later, and what you can see in Drive, the widget report, you'll actually get that accurate number. So you'll see that accurate number. So anyway, okay, so that's the spend. The spend is from the Rev Content API. The number of visits is the actual number of visits that you're charged for from the Rev Content API. And then all this stuff. So clicks is the clicks out of the lander. So clicks, the only way we can get that information is from Volume. So clicks is the clicks out of the lander. CTR is the CTR of the lander, but remember we use the visit number from Rev Content. So the number will actually be more accurate than what you're used to seeing. The revenue we pull from Volume, and then profit and ROI we get from Volume and Rev Content, revenue and spend. Okay, so that's the auto blocker. It's also, you can do as many rules as you want. This is the thing that will save you a lot of money. And it's also worth noting the data time frame here. So this data time frame option applies to all of your optimizations down here. And what it means is the amount of data to use for the calculation. So you can say, okay, I only want to start from 3 days ago, whatever. You can say I want to use only 3 weeks of data, whatever you want to do. Or you can say the default is just use the past 4 weeks of data. Okay, so that's the auto blocker. The auto blocker is also connected to the blacklist feature. So blacklists, Drive can actually keep track of lists of Rev Content widgets for you in its own set of blacklists. We can keep track of blacklists, and we can also keep track of whitelists. I'll tell you about whitelists in a second. Blacklists, what you can do is you can say, okay, for this campaign, every time this campaign blocks a widget, I want to add it to this blacklist or any number of blacklists here. You can have a blacklist for bot placements. You can have a blacklist for mobile, mobile skin widgets that aren't converting. Whatever you want to do, you can set up multiple blacklists here. You can also have a campaign read from a blacklist. So what reading from a blacklist means is that every widget that's on any of these blacklists that I select here, I want to add it to be blocked on this campaign. So what often people do is they'll say, okay, so we could just make a campaign, and all the campaign does is it reads from a blacklist. And that would be useful if you want to have another campaign writing to that blacklist, and then one campaign reading from that blacklist, or you could have multiple campaigns writing to the same blacklist, and multiple campaigns reading to that blacklist. And the nice thing is, as soon as the blacklist is updated by any campaign, all the campaigns that are reading from it will immediately get that widget added. And you can edit the blacklist. So we have this list here. You can go in and you can You can see which widgets are in what blacklists. You can take some out. You can add some, whatever you want to do. Okay, so that's blacklists, which is also connected to the auto blocker. We also have whitelists. So whitelists, now whitelist is not connected to the auto blocker because if you want to add a widget to a whitelist, you can actually tell Drive. So you can say, for example, once it spends $200 and it's profitable, profit is greater than 0. If it spends $200 and it's profitable, I want you to add it to this whitelist. And then later, you can have other campaigns read from this whitelist. And you got to make sure that it's a, so we have a whitelist campaigns and blacklist campaigns. You have to make sure that it's a whitelist campaign, and then we'll have it read from that whitelist. You can also set up different tiers of campaigns. This is a little bit more advanced, but if you want, you could have one campaign adding to a whitelist. If the profit is greater than, between, you can do between. Actually, let's do, you could do EPV or you could do profit. Let's say if it's between 0 and $50, you have this campaign right to a whitelist 2. Or you can have another campaign that says if it's between, $50 and $200, write it to whitelist 3, for example. Whatever you want to do, Drive will just add it to any of these whitelists. And again, you can go into lists and you can edit the whitelists. You can also see all the widgets there in the lists page. Okay, so that's whitelists, that's blacklists. Let's see, day parting. Day parting is pretty simple. You can have as many rules as you want, and either every day or day of the week. Any given time, you have to convert it to Eastern time, US Eastern time. And you can set the bid of the campaign, to, let's say, 20 cents. You can also, Mondays at 1 a.m., I want to pause the campaign, and then, Mondays at 9 a.m., I want to resume the campaign. Whatever you want to do, and you can do any number of these that you want. The last feature is what's called the auto bidder. So the auto bidder, if you've seen on Rev Content, you can actually make custom bids inside of a campaign. This is not talking about the overall campaign bid. It's talking about referring to the target bids. So on each brand or topic, also known as target, you can actually set a custom bid inside of the campaign. And what this does is Drive will actually calculate the kind of correct bid for the target. And the way that it does that is it takes the revenue for that target and it divides by the number of visits that were sent to that target. That's kind of the theoretical, optimal earnings, ECPC, or earnings per click EPC. So Drive will actually calculate that for you. It also works for a VCPM campaign. It'll do the ECPM, revenue over 1,000 impressions. And so what it does is it calculates this number for you, and then you can also multiply it by, let's say, 70%. So if the bid that it calculated was a 10-cent ECPC, then this would make it a 70%, or you can say you want 100%. But this is just to ensure that you have a margin. And you maybe want to bid slightly lower than what the calculation was. And then these options are for just to make sure that you have enough data on a target. So you say, okay, only after it spends 300, before it spends 300 or earns 300, I want it to use the overall bid. But once it spends enough data to learn the right bid, then start, bidding the actual ECPC. And we recommend you use pretty high numbers for this, like a couple $100, depending on the conversions. Depending on the payout. The other really cool thing about this feature is that it will actually look at the widgets that were blocked in these other steps and subtract those from the calculations. So, if you have widgets that maybe cost a couple hundred or a couple $1,000s, they're not in the campaign anymore. So going forward, they shouldn't be a part of the bid. So this will actually subtract those widgets from all the calculations. Okay, so that's the auto bidder. Those are all the different features. You can use any of them as you want, as many of them as you want on each campaign. Okay, so now to see the report. So this report, this is a widget report. And this is just like a normal report. You can see days, you can do custom dates, and you can also see for individual campaigns, you can select which campaign you want. You could also do any groups of campaigns you want here. So you can aggregate, you know, if you've got different campaigns for a vertical and you want to see the performance of widgets across all those campaigns, you can select which campaigns you want. And you can also just say, okay, if I want to look at all my campaigns, the widget performance across all my campaigns. So whatever you want, it will pull up all the data here. And this is really cool. This is the only place you can get this data is via the Rev Content API. The cost, we have the accurate cost data, as I explained before. This is the only place you can get it. We also get the revenue, which we pull from volume for each widget, so you can see the revenue for each widget, the cost for each widget, the clicks, which is from volume, you know, clicks out of the lander. And then we have these two columns both for visits. And you see that most of the time these are the same, but sometimes they're really different, especially for bot placements, they can be really different. And so this is worth looking at when there's big discrepancies here. Usually it means there's a problem, though on this demo it doesn't look like that. It looks like there's a discrepancy here. But I mean, usually problem meaning bot placement, usually. Okay, so that's the widget report. We also have a campaign report where you can see all of your different campaigns, how much they spend and earned. You can see performance across targets, and you can also see performance across creatives. Thanks.